Give me a freak any day of the week. I'm comfortable with those you call demented.
Welcome to The Little Things You Hear Together, the podcast that dives deep into Broadway cast albums to figure out how they work, what they reveal, and why some of them claim a bigger piece of our collective brains than others. My name is Alex Asp, and my guest today is noted homosexual Brandon Boucher. Welcome to the pod, Brandon.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, you have the lovely pleasure of talking about what album today?
Taboo.
Yes, and for anybody who's listening who says, what is that? You are not alone. This is a very often forgotten show from this season and from Broadway in general. But you said I could give you any episode, and so I held you to that.
Yes, you
so
sure
you have
did.
no one to blame but yourself.
That's totally fair.
But hasn't it been a fun journey?
It's been a journey.
Okay, fair.
But I like a challenge, and I am excited to be here. You know I can talk about anything.
So what is your relationship in general with musical theater?
I didn't ever have like a theater kid phase. I was always a band kid, so I do love music and I love making music. The theater department in my high school was ran by an extremely conservative Christian family, and it just wasn't for me. So I knew some things like Beauty and the Beast that my parents took us to and Lion King and things like that when I was younger. But really once I guess Les Mis as well, like one of my speech and debate coaches really was into that. So we all wanted to get to know it because he was one of our closest teachers that we had. But once I went to Ohio State is really when the love affair started. One of the two quick things before I ramble on too much, I remember I was on a London honors trip my freshman year at Ohio State, and there was a Broadway channel before we all had iPods and everything like that, or it didn't last that long that you could plug into the audio. And I listened to that on repeat, and I was like, wow, there's some really cool musicals out there that I had never heard of. And I actually saw Wicked that year in the West End. And so like that was a big open exploration for me. I went to New York the first time in 2009, and then you and I have been going on trips forever for the past few years, and that's really how it all developed, going to the bars and show tunes nights and things like that.
Yeah, so this podcast is largely based on my conversations with friends such as Brandon and Josh, who was a guest earlier in the season. So now the whole world gets to hear what other people around us have to put up with.
It's like you're in the 9th Avenue Saloon.
Exactly.
Right there in Hell's Kitchen, hearing us talk fresh about any show we just saw.
Or are about to see.
Yep.
So what is your relationship to this show/album?
I actually did have a connection to this show, which is why I was like, okay, I remember that song, and I liked that song enough because of my memory with it that I'm like, I can do this show. That was a bit of an overstatement, but back at Union Cafe on Show Tunes Night when I still lived in Columbus, there was a drag queen named Freesia Balls. Shout out to the West family. And she loved Pretty Lies. And there was this recording of this performance from the Rosie O'Donnell show that I can't find anywhere else. And on a slower night, that was her ballad of choice. And we watched it. And so like I had this connection to Taboo. And now I know more.
I'm curious how many of the numbers from Taboo were done on Rosie, because she is the producer of this musical.
She bankrolled this show.
Yeah, she
I
saw
think
it in
she put
London.
Like $10 million into this show.
And lost it all.
Lost it all.
Yeah, she loved it in London and went all out on her own. No one was helping her. It was her first.
That's in a lot of the reviews.
Yeah.
And Rosie coming out saying, like, nobody helped me in the Broadway community. And there are people out there that say, like, in the 90s when Broadway was hurting, it was her show that got people excited to get butts in these seats to save Broadway.
Yeah,
like, she did a lot.
As Broadway was trying to reclaim ground from the mega musicals of Britain, she really was a driving force. And it's unfortunate that no one helped her, because maybe this could have been a much better show.
Yeah, and then obviously
there's a lot of stuff here that could have been really good.
Could have been good. And that's so much of what I think about as we talk about like some larger themes where I was just like, I just left wanting.
Yeah. It is interesting. So this is not the only show in this Broadway season that was in London 2 seasons prior, the other being Bombay Dreams. Both of which I only knew for a long time because of references on Will and Grace, actually.
Naturally.
And Taboo I actually thought was not a real musical for a long time. So it was a couple years in between, but that's still pretty quick for a transfer at that time. It's become more streamlined recently, I think. But before we get into more of this general and then specific thoughts, what is the show about, Brandon?
You know, I've listened to this show a number of times now. And I still think when someone asks me, what's Taboo about? I'm like, that's a great question. We're really talking about the original Broadway cast here. And you look up the synopsis for the London cast, and then they made all of these changes. And I'm just like, this is confusing. The songs are a little rough in terms of some storytelling, which we'll hear us talk more about, I'm certain of. But I would say it's the story of Boy George moving to London, finding club culture, becoming an icon and becoming famous, and then some of the the difficulties that come along with that. And then people in that community finding love, finding themselves too. What I always like to say is I think this had the perfect chance to be such a great musical because it is a bigger than life story. Everything about this era was bigger than life.
Yeah. And part of the confusion also is in parallel to that story, it is telling a partial story about Lee Bowery, but they interact very little in the show, and they are largely telling two separate people's stories who are in the same sphere at the same time. And so they're related stories, but not together at all.
Right.
And it's so confusing that we're going back and forth.
And I think the baseline is kind of what we're talking about, what's going in and general ideas like, what was the general idea? You made two main characters not cross paths. Lyrically, especially if we're, just because we're talking just album, not the performance, right? Like live, but album-wise.
Although from the performance, so there is a bootleg of, I believe, the closing night that is on YouTube that I watched.
There's a lot of good comments on Reddit about it for the small handful of people that are big fans.
The ones that loved it really loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But even watching the bootleg, I struggled to understand what was going on. Part of that is the audio quality on the tape is not great.
Sure.
But it is just a wild ride. And to think that this is much better than the London version, where they had so many more characters and the main protagonist was not Boy George. It was really this other guy that came into town and his mother and his girlfriend. And it's a wild ride. Go to Wikipedia and read the synopsis. And if you want to know what it's like to feel high without being high, there you go. You'll get quite a taste of it.
And honestly, then listen to the London Cast album too, because it's a different kind of ride than the one we're about to talk about.
Yeah, there are a lot of similar elements with songs, but a lot of different elements of songs, and songs are sung by different characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a
But
really weird album cover. Like, it's going for the classic Lee Bowery look,
Mm-hmm.
but it just looks like he's
But he's
bleeding.
not the lead.
And he's not the lead of the show, but it's just so many weird
Yeah.
choices. So I at least appreciate that they tried to improve it for Broadway.
Yeah. Sorry, I almost cut you off earlier, but I feel compelled to say shout out to Diane Pilkington, who was in the London Cast, because she was the first Glinda I ever saw in the West End. So
And in both, I'd say especially on Broadway, but a lot of the London cast as well, the singers are fantastic. And they are trying their best to make this work, and they just can't because there's not a lot there.
it's similar to Redwood this season.
Oh, boy.
You had fantastic things, but what was this book doing?
Yeah. The first act of the show is the lead up to opening the club called Taboo, for which the musical is named, which was a real club that Lee Bowery started in 85, I believe. And
I think you're right.
It lasted for a little over a year.
Yeah, about 18
Where-
months or something.
The whole point of the club was nothing was taboo.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first act is all leading up to that. And then the club doesn't actually figure much at all in the second act either. It's just they wanted a good name, I guess.
Yeah.
And the second act is really, it's common for shows to have second act issues, but boy, does this really go downhill quick
Yeah.
after intermission.
It really does. When I gave this album like probably 2 to 3 listens to just to like get the vibe and then understand it. And then I went through, for the people who haven't met me before, which is probably most of you, I struggle with getting lyrics on multiple runs, so I have to read them along to really let them soak in. And once I started getting that, I was like, oh, I really like this first act. And the second act happened, I was just like, I still have no idea.
It is so
Like, where are
hard to
we
keep your
driving
focus when listening to the album
Yeah.
or when watching it, really. Like, I kept having to stop and rewind and
Mhm.
get my attention back on what was going on because it's
Yeah.
so messy.
Do you mind if I also share a quick story about something I discovered very recently about my listens through on Spotify? Because I was like, oh, it's available.
Oh, yes, do
Yeah,
tell.
So last night, I actually reported the entire album as problems to Spotify. Track 3 is actually just the opening track repeated. There's a track 8 that has the wrong title on it. All of the numbers have the London cast singers on them. So like if you look at Pretty Lies, it says Diane Pilkington, and other songs are out of order. And so my first 3 or 4 listens through to prepare for this, I was in even more chaos because I genuinely
no.
didn't know what to expect. And when I tell you I figured this out in the last 24 hours of my final prep for this show, we're going to have a great time today.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Yeah.
So I do want to acknowledge some of the good things about this show. This is 2003. We are post 9/11 in the height of the Bush conservative movement to ban same-sex marriage and to have a very, not just gay, but queer in many ways.
I mean,
and
faggy. I'm just going to
aggressively-
say it.
and
Like,
aggressively queer and not prettified and Disneyfied to try to make it more appealing to general audiences. The fact that this was on Broadway in 2003,
mhm.
because there have been queer themes in the past, obviously. La Cage was a big hit in the early 80s, but that was a very sanitized and focused on this one club, not trying to give the vibe of a queer movement.
Yeah,
And
I think that's a really good way to put it.
This was not risk-free to try to mount this.
Not
so
at
maybe
all.
that's part of why no one wanted to go along with Rosie on getting it out there.
Yeah.
But it really, like, watching the bootleg especially and seeing Raul Esparza in some of his looks, there's this dress that he puts on with kind of, I'm not going to be able to describe it well because this is a podcast, but it is really brilliant to look at. The choreography is fantastic. There's a lot of very quick hand movements and upper body movements that are just mesmerizing. And I don't know how they had so many good elements and they didn't think that the book needed another go through.
Yeah. Again, I tried to stay away from a lot of the video portions of it so I could just have this specific discussion about it. But the pictures that I have seen, I'm like, this is right. But you said it best, like 2003, sentiments around being gay still hadn't fully come to where they are now.
Yeah, it's just the counter to that is at times this does feel like a Boy George vanity project of him just putting himself out there for promotion, which is then weird that he is not the focus as much as you would think in that situation.
Yeah.
But some of the stories, some of the songs don't make sense other than if you're thinking about it from that lens.
It's kind of forgotten, and you see some similarly successful shows that it's like they all have great casts too. The sound of everyone there's a lot of great moments vocally that happen, but what's going on around it just like it wasn't enough you can only go so high.
Yeah, and often though those kinds of shows do at least provide a springboard for actors to get onto bigger and better projects. One that comes to mind is Bonnie Milligan in Head Over Heels. Like, woof of that show, but then goddamn Bonnie Milligan. Seeing her in Kimberly Kimbo is one of the highlights of my Broadway going experience ever. And I think for this show, the one that came out with that was Raul Esparza.
Yeah.
Because he had Tick, Tick, Boom off Broadway before. But I think this is his first hit on Broadway. He may have been on Broadway before, I didn't check. But this is like his big, everybody take notice. He was nominated for the Tony. I think he's the one that came out of this the best.
Yeah,
for sure.
Agreed. Completely agreed.
Although Boy George was nominated for Best Score for this somehow. I mean, granted, there's not a ton of other options in this season because we have, Boy from Oz is a jukebox musical. But I would have put Bombay Dreams in over this.
Interesting.
Like Bombay Dreams, I didn't know that very well until this podcast and preparing for it, but it's got some gorgeous music.
Yeah.
Also not great lyrics, but here we have both not great.
It's also one of those things where sometimes it's just this show might get more people paying attention to the Tonys because it's there and things like that. Like, when you had some other big hitters this season. I don't know everything that goes into Tonys, but there's always politics involved in the award shows. So what's the balance?
And it
here?
is interesting that they even put Boy George in the show for Broadway. The role of Lee Bowery in London was played by Matt Lucas, who I didn't think was that, major acting at that point. I don't know of him in anything until much later. So he must have been fairly young at the time. But then Boy George took on the role. And not the best actor, but luckily most of Lee Bowery is the visuals. And so he doesn't need to do a whole lot. But it's still, I'm sure part of that was the grabbing attention. And it's not only the Boy George musical, Boy George was in it.
The beginning of what we see now, where you have to have a big stage name, Nick Jonas, in last 5 years.
And how'd that go for them?
Woof.
The one that I really wish had gotten more play out of this is Ewan Morton, who is the only one to transfer from the London production to Broadway. He is playing the young Boy George, sounds very much like Boy George in the 80s, looks just like him, does a fantastic job. Every review I saw from both London and Broadway just praised how great he was. And he sounds fantastic on this album. And I don't know what happened to him after this. Maybe he did more stuff in the UK and less in New York, but I love his voice.
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't really follow up on that, so I don't know.
Yeah, there are only so many things that I can research before I just start to lose my mind.
Yeah, especially when my songs were out of order.
Yeah. So one other general thing that I want to get into, at least before we go through, this is a show that utilizes narrators, 2 to be specific, and they are also characters in the show. So my question for you is, how do you feel about the narrators? We'll stick to mostly this show, but also in general, I guess.
I mean, there's a show with narrators that I absolutely adore, and that's Shucked. Narrator 1 and 2.
Into the Woods.
Into the Woods.
It can be done very well.
Yeah. You and I have seen both those shows together, and we love them, right? Like, and they do 2 different purposes. Like, Shucked, they're so much of the comedy and also add to the value, and the narrator in Into the Woods is driving and then supplies its own storyline that adds so much more deeper meaning. So it can be done. My biggest beef is I needed them in the album. I needed some more narration.
I needed more of them.
Because the hardest thing about this is and we'll definitely talk about this more later, so I'll try to keep this short, and I'm not good at that, everyone, is it sometimes does feel like a collection of songs, and I literally can't understand what happened to get me from one to the next. And that's once I even listen to them in order.
I will say, when I was watching the bootleg, there are several times that you're still like, where did this come from? It's not necessarily better in the show.
Oof. I'm sorry, Rosie. I really do love you.
We love all you've done.
Yeah.
And we love that you took this big swing, and I'm sorry that no one helped you, because that's not fair.
Yeah, it
and
just
it's not
wasn't
nice.
fair.
So anything else general before we start getting into individual tracks?
After the past couple seasons on Broadway, this made me reflect a little bit on shows coming from the UK. You referenced a big power mega ballads, whatever they're called, with ALW and stuff like that, in the 80s and 90s. We're trying to get this ground back. And most recently for us, Sunset Boulevard and some of these other transfers that we see likely to come, I don't know if I understand London theater anymore. I just need to say that out loud to someone, and you're the person I'd want to say it to, and I'm like, well, let's put it on the recording and see how it goes.
All right, let's get into it. So, also, I went to London for the first time a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I knew like British humor until then.
And I thought theater was theater.
It is not. You look at the number of things that have come from the West End, and then you and I at least are like, what the fuck was that?
Mm-hmm.
And how many great things from Broadway flopped in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, we appreciate different things in theater, and it's not as easy to pinpoint why that is, or else people would not make unsuccessful transfers. But
Yeah.
it is crazy how different they are.
Yeah, and so I guess there's a good chance that someone could listen to the show and fall in love with it, and I understand it, and they love the London cast and everything, but I guess the caveat is I personally am reflecting now that I might need to change my mindset when I listen to some of these things that come from West End over to here, and maybe to better understand that, but I don't know if I've successfully made that jump yet, so I'm going to be better about that, but this was a ride.
Yeah, I mean, Back to the Future, dear God. That one, the Olivier.
I mean, the opposite one for me is Devil Wears Prada that I saw here in Chicago in previews, and it's apparently good now,
It's still
but I
running.
have no hope that that's true if I were to see it again.
It's the only time Brandon has ever told me, don't see it, even if you get a free ticket, don't waste your time.
Truly.
I love that there are differences, and I wish I could understand them better
Mm-hmm.
to better appreciate things. And it does also throw into perspective certain things where shows were changed in whichever direction.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one that comes to mind for me is Follies. Cameron McIntosh had a lot of thoughts on how the ending of Follies needed to be changed to resonate with British audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed so stupid to me at the time. And when I say at the time, I mean when I heard that. I was not there in 1987. Now, I get it. There are very big differences, and how successful people are when they try to adapt for that difference is a whole different story.
Mm-hmm.
But I totally understand more
Yeah,
now why
I'm beginning to
people
see that
try.
some people do understand that better than me, because I
Yeah.
didn't think there was one. I don't know. I just want to make sure I made that disclaimer, because I want the people who love this show to tell me and convince me.
Two things that I want to say. One, that I wish I'd been better about saying in earlier episodes, and now here we are near the end of the season, but it's still valid. I love something that I've heard from other people on other podcasts, that flaws are only really flaws to you if the show doesn't work for you. If the show hits and it connects with you, you forgive a lot. And we all have shows that we love that if we're honest with ourselves, we know there are these problems. And somebody listening to critiques might say, well, you said that was a bad thing here, but you don't seem to care over here for the same issue. Because, well, that worked for me overall, and so I can forgive a lot of little things.
Yeah.
So we are not saying these critiques to be mean. It is all about trying to better understand why we like what we like, why we don't like what we don't like, and how we can communicate those thoughts better rather than just saying, I liked it or I didn't like it.
And the shows that we love, all good art deserves and almost requires criticism for us to grow and understand better and make new art. I mean, I could never get on stage and do what these people did. I could never write this show. But
No. So this is never meant to take away from anything that people love about any of these shows. I love anytime somebody loves theater. And like you said, if you love this show, I want you to fill me with the passion that you have for this show so I can understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that has happened several times where I have changed my mind, at least somewhat. Maybe not from hate to love, but from hate to, okay, I see the value in this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love hearing people articulate why they love something. And that's also part of not just the bad critiques, but the good critiques of this really worked well. So it helps me to understand where you're coming from
Yeah.
and can help me to grow in my journey with different shows or with theater as a whole.
Mm-hmm. and I don't remember if I said this in my quick intro, but Alex has heard some of my most heinous hot takes. High stakes opinions on low stakes topics is one of my favorite personality traits to have, but he's also like helped me curate ones where, opinions that I can go to other people and listen better and say, I hear what you're saying. It just didn't hit for me.
Except for Sunset Boulevard.
I've been trying not to say it out loud.
We'll see if I keep it in or not.
Okay.
Oh, dear God. Okay, that's for a different season of the podcast. So, let's get into the album now.
Yeah.
The opening track is Freak/Ode to Attention Seekers.
Mm-hmm.
This is a different kind of an opening than we're used to. And my first thought when I started listening is, for the podcast editing, I start each episode with the beginning of the first track and end with the ending of the last track to kind of be like bookends. So for those of you who started this episode and are wondering what is going on, I'm still going to do that, but it's going to be weird because this is a weird start to the track.
And I think it's going to be a weird end. And
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah.
I like knives, aggressive boys, hookers, thieves, and queers, and those confused. If you knew what I knew, you'd be a freak too.
But what's even stranger is in the show, in the bootleg, this is preceded by a scene.
Really?
Yeah. So it is Philip and Big Sue, who will then act as our narrators, coming on stage and finding a bunch of old junk, and that transports them back to reminisce on the club.
Interesting.
And then he starts singing. And as he's singing, the club comes back to life. We're transported back in time. And that's why it gets a lot more upbeat and the ensemble joins in. And you don't get that from the album, obviously. I don't know that part you need to get from the album, but it's still a weird opener to bring you in.
Again, if you're trying to judge a show, like how well does the story translate in what we're producing, that people, the thing that you can take home and repeat all the time, I struggle with that. That makes a lot more sense to see how we got in this world and how it's like, hey, all the memories are, they come back. It feels like a flood, but then it's 2 seconds later, 2 minutes later, like, oh my gosh, I have even more, I have even more, I have even more. So it just starts slow. And I like that idea technically, but just listening to it, all I could think of was, I want Magic to Do from Pippin, or let's look at the Freaks from Sideshow.
Yeah.
Give me those things where you have like a bigger start and set the world with the music.
Yeah. But again, there's a better way to do exactly what they tried to do here. Follies, going back to Follies, starts with the current point and going back in time. It starts very soft and eerie and then picks up.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same concept here, but just done better.
Yeah.
And it's not the job of people writing a show or producing a show necessarily to think about the cast album when they're writing it. But from my perspective, doing this podcast, obviously, I would have thought at the time something along the lines of, is this how we want the cast album to open? No. Maybe we have a little bit of underscoring during part of that scene so we can include that on the album and bring people in better.
Well,
But they didn't.
What I also don't know that much about, and as I listen to more Broadway podcasts and things, I learn more, but at what point did they record this and how far into the run were they? Was it something like, we want to record this, but we don't have any more money to do more?
Yeah.
I don't know what happens. I don't know how that happens for like the big shows or like even those limited run shows like a Parade or something from the past few years.
It varies. I think a lot of shows will have the album recorded before they open so that they can have it ready to sell. And that's how we get some shows where there are tracks on the cast album that are not in the show anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw Frozen in previews, and the one song I really liked they cut, but included as a bonus track. And so for my album, I moved it to where it was in the show because I liked it. But, a lot of times that's going to happen if you're trying to be ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll record right after they open, especially if you close right away. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
But then, we still don't have a cast album for Floyd Collins or Dead Outlaw that came out
Very surprised
several
about the
months
Floyd
ago.
Collins pushing it back.
And I wouldn't say either of those shows were hits, but they were doing solid enough that you would have thought they would have had the cast album earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite a ways delayed from even the closing of the show, not just the opening.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of factors, and they make a decision.
Especially Rosie
on a
doing it
time.
all herself. Like, there wasn't Broadway helping.
Yeah.
I don't know who could have helped make this better or make some executive decisions. There's a lot of talent on Broadway, obviously, but
I will say, though, I haven't mentioned it a lot on episodes, but I have been trying to pay attention as I've been making the season. This was done on DRG Records, which does a lot of Broadway cast albums, and Frank Filippetti was the audio engineer. And he is one of those names that if you're paying attention to this, you will see come up all the time, because he is one of the big people, at least in this era, that was producing cast albums. And so you would think that even if the people on Broadway weren't helping, the people helping make the cast album, one would have hoped would have given some help for that part of it.
yeah.
And maybe they did. Maybe it was even worse before.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I just looked down at my notes one last time, and I know we cannot talk about every song this long here because we will be here for 3 hours, and you will kill me when you're editing this. But my one note was, what was the staging? What was the costumes? Like, I have so many questions, and it made a whole lot more sense because you're like, oh, this did help, but I didn't realize I had written that down.
The costumes
before.
are fantastic. I definitely recommend watching the bootleg. The Lee Bowery looks alone are ridiculous.
Yeah.
These rags don't tell the whole story. I live for the glory of turning your heads.
So one thing that I'll throw it in here, I don't love Raul Esparza's voice. I like him as an actor, but his voice, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not like I have critiques of whatever. It's just for me, it doesn't hit like I want it to and like it does for a lot of people.
Are you saying on this album or are you saying in general?
Especially on this album, but also in general.
Can I say something now?
Yes.
Same.
Wow. Okay.
Seriously. I'd never say that out loud because people love him, but
like I never listened to his Being Alive. That's
I
never
never
the one
listened to his Being Alive. It doesn't do it for me.
I don't listen to that off-Broadway recording of Tick, Tick, Boom. I listen to the movie soundtrack because I
didn't mind him in
love
Tick, Tick,
his.
Boom. Tick, Tick, Boom, it was fine for me, but that version of Company, it's just, I don't know why. I understand his talent. I understand why people love it. His acting is great, his everything, but he's not for me.
Yeah. And I do love watching him act. I've not seen him live anything, but from the videos I've seen of things, I do love him as an actor. It's just, I think for me, his vibrato is a little too narrow. It's a little too warbly.
Very narrow vibrato.
And very rapid. And then, especially in this album, the rocker quality that he's trying to go for just grates on me.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's done badly. It's not for me. And
it makes me feel bad because then it's like, oh, it's another tick on the box for,
Yeah, again, if it works for you, you forgive things. If it doesn't, you don't.
Yeah.
And so I don't hold that against the album, but it does factor into my enjoyment of the album.
Totally.
Especially with how much he is singing on this. Again, we could have used more in the way of narration. I had no idea until I saw the bootleg who the hell he is. And it's still weirdly vague in the show, but he is just somebody that met Boy George and then is popping in and out of narration while Big Sue is doing the same with Lee Bowery. So we have one narrator from each of the people, but then they're talking together.
I had to write notes like that on here.
It's very confusing. And we just don't get much, if any. For a lot of the songs, we get no dialogue to help clue us in.
None.
And there are a couple that we get very limited dialogue.
Yeah.
And so you've already got the fact that this is written by a singer-songwriter of pop music. So it's going to naturally skew toward feeling like a collection of songs and not an album, like a storytelling album. And then with no narration, no dialogue, nothing to help bridge things together, those two together are not a good combination for a cast album that people can follow along to and feel like they're getting an experience.
Yeah. It's a very cast album that's like, I discovered the song, The Pretty Lies. You know what I mean? Like the whatever. And I attached to that moment. And because I knew what happened around it and it made it even more, I knew the staging. Like I'm really holding on to that performance.
Yeah. So after the opening, we get into Stranger in This World, which is very abrupt in the show. So we go from this very big, high energy, gaiety, and on the album, we slam right into this soft, contemplative number. It's not much better in the bootleg. From the nightclub scene, basically it reveals him at a phone booth and he has like 10 seconds of conversation with his mother and then the song begins. And so you get nothing.
Yeah. Again, it's good now that I'm getting some flashes into the performance because it is making me feel at least a little better in some of the thoughts that I have because I was just like, this is really almost melancholic, reflective, and it is very, very limited scoring behind the singer.
Yeah.
But I actually do like a number of things in this song.
It is a beautiful song.
It's a beautiful song.
Again, there are so many good things in this album, in this show, that just didn't coalesce.
Yep.
I said
a great
before,
anti-capitalist message that I'm here for.
Ewan McGregor. Ewan Morton's voice is so delicious in the song.
Yes.
Especially near the end when he does the "On a Clear Day."
Yes.
It's just so good.
It's so good.
On a clear day, I can see myself for miles. Oh, mother. Oh, mother.
And I want more of that always.
I'm gonna slightly go off topic, but it will be on topic. Did you watch the movie All of Us Strangers?
Yes.
What a perfect example of this too. Strangers in the world, coming in, young gay boy, you're always a stranger in the people around you because we grew up in such a heteronormative world.
Yeah.
It just hit a moment when I was re-listening to the song and I was like, oh, throw me back to that movie, which you will probably hear a different story where I cry all the time because I'm a very easy cry. So I got really sentimental listening to this. And then you added Ewan's voice to this where I was like, this is great.
I wish the lyrics kept up with the beauty of the song, because if you actually pay attention to the lyrics, there are a lot of spots where it brings you out of that vibe that you were just describing.
100%. And I think that's unfortunately something we're going to say again later on. But there are moments that the song sounds great, but then the lyrics just don't keep you there. I think that's why I was having some of these thoughts in the sense of that one good line took me somewhere that I really enjoyed, but the song itself didn't keep me in the listening.
It's also, for someone like you who is definitely not a lyrics first listener, it makes sense that you would get pulled in by the melody. And then once you start to pay closer attention to the lyrics, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
You always knew, didn't you, mother? You always knew, as mothers always do. You always knew, didn't you, mother? I was a stranger in this world.
Because, you always knew, as mothers always do. We don't need always in there twice. And that line is such an awkward way of saying that. Because it's basically saying parents always know. But you use a lot more syllables and make it weird to try to fit the meter of the song, and it just doesn't work very well.
It's when you're forcing rhymes and the meter feels clunky, and honestly, it turns your lyrics almost flat, You're not getting any peaks and valleys anymore. It's just, you're driving through Kansas.
And there's a lot of, throughout many songs in this album, the lyrics just repeat over and over. You always knew, didn't you, mother? You always knew, as mothers always do. The full line of that is even more repetitive, with more words you're just hearing over and over. And it's, come on, we could do better than this.
Yeah.
With a nice melody underneath, you could have done so much more.
And the sentiment of the song that they wanted to give.
It's a beautiful moment of he is breaking out on his own because his mom always knew but didn't accept him, and now he has to find his own way.
Yeah.
And that is very relatable for so many people.
To any degree, even in the most supportive family.
Yeah.
Again, you're a stranger in your family because you will still be different.
Yeah, and even outside of the queer connotation of that, realizing that your family doesn't understand something about you that makes you different, and you have to forge your own path.
Yeah.
It is very relatable for many, many people. And to not give it as good a moment in the song as it could have is not as good as you'd like.
And I think that translates to just so much of, I think, our sentiment so far in this. And what we'll continue to hear is that we see what this could have been.
Yeah, I have more to say on that later for sure.
Yeah.
Mother.
After this, another out of nowhere song is Safe in the City.
These lyrics are not available, nor is this audio available on Spotify. And I then also subscribed to an ad for Amazon Unlimited Music, and it said, you can listen to this album here, and they only have the London recording of it. So I genuinely don't know the song, because guess what, everybody? The YouTube cuts online are from Spotify, mislabeled. So I don't know the song. Again, I discovered this last night.
That sucks.
So I thought it would be a funny story for the podcast, and I'm just going to bounce off what you have to say.
There we go. So you at least get the song from the London album.
Right.
It's not that different.
Yeah.
You think you know me? I don't even know me. I'll screw my head off and lay it at your feet so you can tell me, please, what's on my mind.
In the context of the show, it is Nicola, who I don't think was in the London production.
I don't think they were.
So
That was a character they introduced.
So I don't know.
I read the lyrics to it.
Yeah, so I don't know who is singing it in the London production, but the gist of it, I think, is supposed to be, I can be myself in the city. I'm safe. It's very unclear, even reading the lyrics, what this is supposed to actually mean. It is very pop song that it's sort of sounds like a story, but it's not really saying anything.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, at least lyrically, one where we just heard he's running to the city to find himself, and then we see someone in the city being themselves.
It's fine. I'd rather listen to Saturday Night in the City from Wedding Singer if we're going to talk about being in the city.
Sure.
But she sounds great on the album, but it's just the song doesn't feel necessary or helpful.
Yeah.
Feels like filler, which is too bad because she sounds great.
Can I stay here? I'll be nothing. I'll be no one. So don't hold me back. Just let me
After that, then we have Dressed to Kill. So this was at least not on the London recording.
No.
So presumably newly written for New York. And it definitely feels like an afterthought.
I get that, but I didn't mind it. Even if it was scene changing or whatever it was, I like the idea. It was introducing so much of like what it was supposed to do. It was a little bit of time where I felt some sense of narrative and not just an interpersonal thought or semi-conversation. But I also know club culture, so I don't know. But then again,
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening in the show, so my idea of it might be wrong.
In the show, they're just dancing.
Okay, yeah.
Great choreography.
Yeah.
But they're just dancing.
Yeah, I'm fine with this song, to be completely honest.
Are you familiar with the American Psycho cast album?
I'm not.
I will not speak ill of it, but it's not the best. And there's a song that is very similar vibes to this, which obviously this came first, but it's very stilted meter, very say three words music, say three words music. Like it's very that.
Yeah.
And it just rubs me the wrong way because it feels to me like lazy songwriting to not try to have any complex phrases, not have anything that's saying anything. Just you have a few words strung together here and there. It does not work for me.
In that sense, I guess it is to be like, why does it need to be on the cast album then? Like, it could just be a
And
song that happens.
It's a very short track as well.
It is very, very short. And it sounds almost like a transition that you don't need to have.
Yeah. So a question that I have with many other songs as well, but this is kind of the first one that it comes up. Where is the line between pastiche and unoriginality? Because in a lot of things we praise this is meant to sound just like X, Y, or Z, and it's a good thing that it does. But for me, at least on this song, it feels unoriginal. Maybe it's because he's doing a pastiche of his former self that it feels that way, but it just feels like I'm writing the same kind of song I would have written 20 years ago, or I guess more like 15 at the time.
I don't know if I have a good response to that. I think that's actually a really important question to ask that I hadn't asked myself yet. So,
Because I was thinking about, to some degree in Boy from Oz and a lot in Assassins, how much I appreciate the pastiche of sounding like a Judy Garland song, sounding like a Sousa march, etc. And so why does this not have the same, it doesn't evoke the same appreciation as those?
I think it's probably just me knowing you as well as I do. I think if I could call your opinion out in this moment is that those drive things and they use it as a technique, like form follows function, right?
But to some degree, the whole album is of that culture, of that music. So it does further that.
But
world
like,
building,
what was the function of it, though? You know what I mean? I like the form, but what did we get out of this song?
Yeah, I think an interesting comparison for this whole album, really, that I keep coming back to for more reasons than one, is The Wedding Singer. Because that was only 2 years later. Yeah, this was 2003, that was 2005, I believe. And that is all 80s pastiche.
Yeah.
And that just hits different for me. And I don't know if it's because it's actually reading more as musical theater pastiche of the 80s, whereas this is reading more as an 80s songwriter writing an 80s song. It just happens to be 2003.
This is a gut thought. So if everyone come for me later if this is wrong, because I need to hear it. Trust me. It does feel almost like a sample track where it's just like we use something we already had. And I think that's really what you're getting at there. Like, it didn't.
Even if it's not that, that's the vibe that gets.
Yeah. And when you describe it a little bit more, give me a better frame of reference. Like, I do hear what you're saying, where it was just like, we want you to know it was something like this, but we're not going to give you the exact tone that we want.
Yeah.
Because this is good enough.
I don't have a good answer either, but I realized that it's the same technique ostensibly, but it's not hitting like it normally does in other shows that I like this.
Totally.
Even other shows that are doing the 80s in a very similar time period in Broadway history. And I wish I had a better answer, so if anybody listening has a good reply, please let me know.
Yes, please.
The music I don't love, the lyrics I don't love. It's just there to, I think, largely be, look at the pretty dancing while we move the set around a little bit, which is fine. And then we go fairly quickly into Genocide Peroxide. What are your thoughts? So I do appreciate that you purposefully did not watch the bootleg so that in this discussion you would not have context. So I want to hear what you think of this song, not having seen the show.
So my two quick notes that I have on this, I was like, finally some energy. Because even though Dress to Kill should have been like club culture, I didn't feel energy, which I think is exactly what you described there with the whole pastiche, or is it just unoriginal? I wrote my second note is, what the hell is happening on stage?
Love and hate, it's all the same my way. Just another twisted game.
Yeah, I find this song so confusing, and it's so high energy that it is really hard to focus on the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they help you much once you do, but basically, this is George has gone to this club, and I think Lee is also at the club, but they don't meet at the club.
Because why would the two main characters meet in the show?
When they're at the same place at the same time. Yeah. And so this is George's first time seeing Marilyn. And I think they do say that it's Marilyn in the track, right?
I think so.
So Marilyn was a good friend of Boy George, who was, I think she described herself more as like a performance artist, somewhat drag, somewhat performance art. Line obviously gets quite blurred in there. But at least in the show, it seems like tends to live life in female appearance most of the time. So there might also be some gender stuff going on there. It's not clear.
Yeah.
This is 2003. We're definitely not going to explore that in a show.
No.
But it's basically, it's just her coming out and doing a number, and he's watching her, and that's all the number is.
Yeah.
And she's sort of looking like Marilyn Monroe. It's like the peroxide is in reference to the platinum blonde hair. Kind of. I still don't understand the genocide part. I'd have to maybe study the lyrics harder.
I think I might have to take some extracurriculars and watch it and maybe understand it, but I didn't get it from reading the lyrics.
Yeah, it washes over me. Very well performed. It is Jeffrey Carlson playing Marilyn, and sounds great. I love the energy. I love the performance of it. It's just the song itself is, huh? But at least he sells it.
Yeah.
Such a pretty boy I've never seen.
Now we go into the bathroom of the club.
Where all good things happen.
For I'll Have You All.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I think, right after we've met Lee Bowery in the club, and he's in the bathroom singing this song. I want to hear what you have to say, but first, why does it start with the opening chords from Phantom of the Opera? Which had been out for 15 years at this point on Broadway, longer on the West End, in the West End. So why did they choose that? I don't understand.
I don't know. It's so funny that
it has nothing to do with the rest of the song.
Nothing. And I think I was so confused by the show that I didn't even catch on to that chord, which is wild. I'll be listening to music. I was like, oh, this is the same key as this song from Wicked. And I genuinely didn't catch on to it.
It's just, ugh.
That's wild.
So other than that, what are your thoughts on this song?
I wrote that I like this song in the sense of I felt a little bit of narrative in this. It was definitely more character development than anything, in the sense of like what Lee Bowery and Taboo ended up being known for. This perverse, I'll take you all, like it doesn't matter, anything. But I then wrote, at this point of the album, I don't know what's happened on stage. I genuinely don't know where we're going. I don't know where we are.
No clue.
So I could get this idea of who is singing because I knew the character and like
this is
what
also
they're singing
the first
about.
time that we hear the character sing. So this is a brand new voice on the album.
Yeah. And then like, where'd you come from? What's going on?
I've had lawyers, doctors, judges, and thugs, and I never, ever, ever asked their names. Hungry faces in the dark, gay deeds in the park, and before you ask at funeral,
So this is the song on the album for me that makes me the most angry, because there's so much potential in this moment. Narratively, character-based, like there's so much you could do with it. And I think this song is just lazy as fuck. It is the most basic music that you can imagine.
Yeah.
And the lyrics are so dumb.
Dumb.
And you get the verse, the chorus. You get, I think, one or two lines different of the verse, and then the rest of the verse the same.
The
and
same.
The chorus the same. And he performs it the same way every time. So
like no change in dynamics or extravagance or anything.
Yeah. So whenever I've talked to people, either when I was taking voice lessons or actor friends, a big thing is when you're performing a song, if something is repeating, you need to have a reason why it's repeating. Is that emphasis? Is it reflection that's changing what you're thinking about as you're singing it? What is different that requires it to be sung again in a musical theater song? And there's none of that. Even the biggest opportunity when he says
did you see the size of that?
Yeah.
It should have been, the first time should have been, did you see the size of that? Like it should have been softer, quieter, inquisitive, something else, so that it's actually funny the second time when it's screamed. It's not funny when it's screamed both times. And how did no one realize that?
Yeah.
That is just basic musical theater, and somebody involved should have known. And it also wasn't just that Boy George, I guess Matt Lucas wasn't experienced either, but it was the same thing in the London version.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
You're not wrong. It was very like again, sometimes I feel like when I was prepping for this, I was worried about how much we were going to have to talk about because I was just like, I'm just getting lost, like tapping my toe or just like, yeah, I've heard this lyric already to like get these subtle differences. And I'm like, oh, wait, there was no subtle difference.
Nope, there was not. And there are a couple of cute things in the staging, but not much, really.
Yeah.
The best thing is the look that Lee Bowery has on, which
honestly should be the biggest thing on stage.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's not going to get you anything on the cast album.
Live, mama, live.
And then next we go into Sexual Confusion. Again, very confusing because we have the narrator singing, and I don't know that they're narrators until you, like, just listening through, you have no idea who these people are that are singing.
No.
And it's even more confusing because Big Sue has a deeper voice. And so in a show that has a lot of queer characters with males singing much higher than typical, she sounds the same as Boy George as far as the range.
Right.
Uh-oh, sexual confusion. Uh-oh, light in your eyes. Uh-oh, sexual confusion's the language of lust. It's a world of disguise.
And so you don't even have any sense of who this person is. The voice is in that range that it could be anybody.
Yeah. I just really finally got to, again, it was because I read the lyrics and I saw who was saying what, because I do think it was hard to differentiate sometimes. But once I understood that, I actually thought narrative and character development happened in this song.
This is one of the few songs that we actually do get some bits of dialogue along the way.
Yes.
Which is very helpful.
You could feel the story itself and where the characters are coming from in their growth of coming to the city. And again, this is queer stories and, oh, I'm going to stay at your place platonically. Yeah, I said that last night too, you know, like.
Brandon's rolling his eyes right now.
But no, I could comment on some of like the lyric quality or like where was the music sometimes, but
It's still very repetitive
yeah,
in the lyrics, but overall, this is doing more musical theater work than I think any song before it.
completely agree.
So that is at least a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would not have included on the album is the bit where they're asking each other's names. He's like, oh, my name's George, but I do have a friend that calls me Boy George. And Raul Esparza, who is watching from up above as the narrator, goes,
He just said it, and I was that friend.
Oh,
that was
shut
the
up!
other one.
I want to see how he gets this one's knickers off.
and it's so weird of a squeal, and it does not sound like Raul Esparza. So I was like, who the fuck is this now? It sounds like a whole different person than his
it's
singing
supposed to be
voice.
this intimate moment with two people,
And
and
the
we don't
narrators are
again.
just ogling them from above. It is so weird. But other than that bit, I liked how much we get of the actual story. And then it is funny at the end of the song in the bootleg, he goes in for a kiss and turns his head and they just go to sleep.
Aw,
So it actually is platonic in the end,
yeah.
at least that time. Next up is your song,
Mm-hmm.
Pretty Lies.
Mm-hmm.
So I will let you take this one since this is kind of your entry point to the show.
Yeah. Again, I can't find this on YouTube. I was going to try to send it to you to be like, we used to play this way back in the day at Union Cafe in Columbus, Ohio, where I was a barfly on Sunday show tunes for more years than I'm going to say out loud before I moved to Chicago. And on the less busy nights, we could get away with playing some more off the path songs, a little slower, a little more ballady or anything like that. I think the vocals are great in this song. And if you disagree with me, fight me. I'm here for it, you know?
If you see all the hurt in my eyes, will you laugh? Will you run? Will you carry me?
But drag queen friends really like this song. It's like, you know, wiping it all off your face and like, who are you really underneath? Will they
Oh,
ever love you
yeah.
for who you are? These pretty lies that I'm showing off to everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that a woman sings this in the London cast recording. It doesn't hit as hard. I do think this was a good choice for Broadway
Yeah.
to switch it to this character. I know I'm biased. Like, I just have a lot of good, fun memories with it.
I think it's a great song. I don't think it's a great cast album contributor.
Totally.
It
fair.
is a beautiful pop song.
Yeah.
And the fact that it could be moved to a different character and all they had to change was saying boy at the end instead of girl,
Woof.
that's never a good sign if
It's
your
not.
songs are that interchangeable among characters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a gorgeous song, but it's not helping the story. It's not helping us get character development that much. I mean, a little bit, because regardless of who is sharing these emotions, we can resonate with that and
Yeah.
understand. But it's not doing a lot of narrative work.
No narrative work. Oh, totally.
You get a little bit of character work, but not any narrative
And I
work
like
at
the
all.
character work, but again, it's because I associate so much with this, like,
Yeah.
understanding of other people who have felt it helped their personal narrative, where I can see what they were going for in the show. But yeah, again, I could end this and I go, so what's happening now? Like, where are we going next?
Yeah.
I don't
And-
know.
And it is a nice, quieter moment between sexual confusion and what's coming next.
Mm-hmm.
But that even more so makes you go, oh, that was nice. Wait, what was going on? Oh, and now we're back into a loud song.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of whiplash on this album.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the loneliest boy in the world.
Because after that, we go to gutter snipe, which I'm assuming is a British term, because it's not actually in the song. They talk about the gutters, but they never say the term gutter snipe.
Yeah.
So forgive my American ignorance on not knowing the term. I feel like I've heard it before, but I don't know exactly how it would be used.
I watch a lot of British television, and I don't know this.
Yeah. It is a fun song. I think it's one of the more catchy ones for me.
Agreed.
Gets stuck in my head more. It is very abrupt. So in the bootleg on the show, they are out shopping, Marilyn and George. And basically out of nowhere, they start singing this together. Like there was some talk beforehand about, oh, I'm not getting famous or that kind of stuff. And then just out of nowhere, they start singing the song. And you're like, okay, that was sudden.
Like what emotion was happening that caused them to switch from talking to singing? Yeah.
I can see the stars from the gutter. See the stars from the gutter. If it all goes wrong, we got each other.
And so, again, it definitely feels like more of a pop song. And with the repetition of lyrics, again, much more of a pop song. But it is fun. It is character development that they're both dreaming of stardom.
Yeah.
And as a spoiler, one of them will get very famous, the other not so much.
Yeah.
And a lot of the audience watching will know that because they're like, I know this person. I've never heard of Marilyn before this show.
Right.
And so there is that moment as well of...
It's very what is this feeling vibes to me.
Yeah. Except they're liking each other.
Yeah, but it's like there's this sense of discovery of something going on between two people.
And it's fun to kind of get the...
You are so qu'est-ce more like, what is it?
It's like, oh, same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's better than a lot of the tracks on this album for me, but still better as a standalone song than part of a narrative.
Yeah. And again, common thread so far. I'm not overly mad at the songs, but I'm not getting musical theater.
No.
And that's what we're supposed to be doing.
It is basically a new Boy George album with guest artists singing.
I can see a future in you.
Although, that being said, the next song might be my favorite on the album as far as being a musical theater song. Love is a question mark. We have the two couples, weird couples such that they are. So we have George and Marcus, who are now in a relationship. And you have Lee Bowery and the girl who sang about being safe in the city earlier finally met Lee Bowery, has become his assistant, Nicola, which is true. And they are singing to each other as if it's a romantic song, even though he was gay. They, funnily enough, they did get married like 7 months before he died, but it was like a PR public art thing more so than anything else. It wasn't like a romantic marriage.
That's not what she says after his death, which is crazy.
Oh boy, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So maybe not some agreement on that between the two of them or people around them. But at this point, as far as we know, they are not romantically involved, but they're singing the same song. And a lot of times that can be really intriguing in musical theater when people are singing similar things but with different contexts, and so it means different things. We don't have enough complexity of storytelling for that to be the case here.
Sure.
But it is still a very good song of characters interacting with each other, kind of talking about don't say things you don't mean. It actually feels like a conversation is happening, not just we're singing a pretty song.
Yeah.
Don't get too close, don't be afraid, don't say too much if you don't mean it. I can be kind, I can be cold, I've got a heart, haven't you seen it?
So this is a song that was much simpler on the London album, and they beefed it up into being 4 parts.
It felt Broadway.
And so you have great 4-part harmony going along, and then it ends on this 9th chord. And I am a slut for a 9th chord. I love it so much.
We really actually don't need any qualifier in that sentence, but for this context, it's good.
Okay, fine. I'll just cut this whole episode.
Yeah, you can.
You're
Yeah,
out.
cut.
It's a question mark.
And so whatever ill feelings I might have been having for a bit before then, this song gives me a little bit of a, oh, this is nice. This is
like that
this
exhale or
is
that like
more of what I want.
Yeah.
And then again, looking back, why isn't more of the show like this?
Truly. And I remember so many different times where exactly what you said, it got beefed up from London. And that's when I was referring to earlier, like, I don't understand the West End as much as I thought I did, because I'm like, I definitely was like, this is kind of a snooze. And then here, and I'm like, whoa, this is very different. And it felt like we're using the talent on stage. I'm not completely sold about the narrative abilities or storytelling and everything, but like you said, there were more musical theater moments happening here than we had seen before.
Yeah.
I also need to acknowledge that this is the song where I finally recognized that titles were wrong and things were out of order. It took, I think this is song 10.
We said it was worse than the second half of the album, right?
In general, everything is worse in the second half of the album, but...
Well, okay. I didn't mean that to be a metaphor.
No, I'm teasing.
But really?
Yeah, but it starts here. And then I went back and realized the other ones because I genuinely didn't know what the songs were supposed to be. So 10 songs in, I'm like, I think something is wrong.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So that feels like almost an end to the act, but it is not. From there, we go into a little grouping here. So in the show and in real life, Boy George was starting to kind of make some connections, get his music out there a little bit, and he forms his band, which would come to be Culture Club. I think they had a different name at the very beginning. Perhaps, I don't remember, whatever. In the show, this is not on the album, which I'd rather have this little moment than the one we got earlier, but they start to sing a different song. And it becomes clear to the record producer in the booth that this is a story about a man singing to another man.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, no, we're not doing that. And in a weird moment that is so anticlimactic, he just says, okay, we'll do the other song. We're not going to dive into that at all. This feels like an example of if you tell the story exactly as it happened, it's not going to be that interesting a story to an audience.
Yeah.
That probably is what happened, and that's what would happen in a real life situation. I'm not going to waste my shot by saying, no, I'm going to turn down this opportunity based on principle. No, you would switch to the other song, especially since you already have it ready. But in a musical, give us something. Come on.
Something.
Even if it's just a longer pause before you say, okay, and a more meaningful look to be like, this is hurting me, but I know I have to do it. There's nothing. And there's an opportunity as well for the lyrics of the next song to make this moment land more. Because the next song is, do you really want to hurt me? And so that could be so meaningful. But because it's one of the 3 songs from the 80s from Culture Club, the audience isn't hearing that. They're just hearing, I know this song. And so you get none of that potential effect compared to if you'd written a different song that was very similar and very obviously referencing that.
Yeah.
Where you could have had the lyrics.
Pastiche, you might say.
You might say, instead of the literal actual song. And so it's weird that it's just...
I didn't think that song fit in here. I know,
but it's like you had to have it because it's
had to have
Boy
it.
George.
I get it. I totally get it. But it was just this moment I'm like, this isn't a jukebox, but now you made it one, and it didn't fit what was going on.
They don't even try. It's just diegetic. They're recording an album, and that's all it is. And not even like Dreamgirls, where what they're singing about in the studio has an impact. You know, it's a shadow of what's happening in their lives, and so it's telling both stories. No, this is just, it's a song. We're singing a song, which is play with music versus a musical.
I was going to say, this is like we're getting into Stereophonic all over again.
Exactly. Which, great show, but not a musical.
Not a musical.
Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry?
Anyway, the one thing I wrote down for this, though, is Wedding Singer movie. This will always and forever be George from The Wedding Singer singing this song over and over when they can't find the rest of the band to come back and sing. And it's just so stupid and funny, and I can never have anything else be that in my mind.
Honestly, I can't remember the last time I saw that movie, and I totally forgot about that.
And then from there, we go to a kind of mashup-ish of Church of the Poison Mind and Karma Chameleon, two more of the Culture Club songs. And these are done, I think, as like a concert showcase kind of thing.
Who would be the fool to take you be more than just kind? Step into a life of maybe love. It's hard to find in the church of the poison mind. In the church of the poison mind.
Again, even watching the bootleg, I'm confused about what's happening. But they're on a stage. And so this is just them singing their songs. I do like that if we're going to get 3 of the real Culture Club songs on the album, I like that they clustered them together. It's not quite as jukebox hybrid as it could have been if they'd sprinkled them throughout.
You know, that's a really interesting point that once again, I'm glad you said and called me out on it, because I'm not going to lie, my notes get sparse after this because I checked out. This is the point where I really just started checking out because it was exactly what you said, like, oh, I know this song. And I'm like, I haven't known what's going on stage. I haven't known this, but then there are some later songs that I do like, kind of like snap back into it to get it. And you're right. Like it does help like have this moment.
And this is the end of Act 1.
Right.
Karma Chameleon is right before curtain.
Yeah.
And at the end of the track, I think it's Lee Bowery who's saying, this is a terrible song, it'll never run. And it's a joke, which is obvious in the bootleg because you can see by the body language. But there's not much in the tone to indicate that it's a joke. So I'm like, and it also doesn't really sound like Boy George. So I'm like, who is saying this? It sounds like somebody's actually telling him that this song is never going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a weird way to end the song. So again, just recreating what was on stage on a cast album doesn't always work when you don't have the visual cues of who is saying this and why are they saying it.
Mm-hmm.
So that a missed opportunity there as well.
Yeah. And also, it's like, it's just one of those moments of, I'm like, this is the end of the act. Like, where are we going next?
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't know. The whole time we've been saying we're struggling with knowing narratively what's happening, but not only do I not know what's happening in the moment, I don't know where we're going.
And I don't know where we are. Like I said, he's on a stage. And presumably the whole climax of the show of the first act is opening Taboo.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure, is that where they are right now?
Mm.
That's never clear, definitely on the album, but even in the bootleg, I did not catch that. Like, were there references to them wanting to start a club earlier?
Not in the music, not in the lyrics I read.
And I don't think much in the show. And this is one of the few times in the entire show that Lee Bowery and Boy George interact very briefly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if I'm correct, and this is not Taboo, Taboo opens the intermission. We never talk about it forming. We don't talk about it opening. We just have it as the opening song of Act 2. And then it's not really an Act 2 either. And yet we need the musical after this.
Yeah.
So many opportunities.
Red, gold, and
So now, after intermission, we come back to Everything Taboo.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's mostly a nothing song. It is a very catchy hook, and that's it. Literally, the chorus is the same two phrases repeated, and then every chorus is exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
There's very little in the verses in between. It's, again, mostly just to showcase the costumes and choreography, which on stage will let you gloss over the music a bit more. But when you're stripped down to the cast album, there's nothing to distract you from how empty this is.
I don't want to reference this too many more times because unless you lived in Chicago, you probably haven't seen it. But it just screamed even more Devil Wears Prada to me, where there were just moments to try to show off like the things people were wearing. And I'm like, we're getting nothing.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that the only song that really takes place in the title club has nothing of substance at all. It actually goes on longer in the show than what's on the album. In the show, after that song is done, like a little mini scene happens, and then they come back and they're dancing and singing it again, and then a little mini scene, and then again for a couple more times. And I'm just like, when will this song end?
Yeah, it's almost like, why couldn't we create, the club's not doing this for that long. Let them have a different moment. Sing it. I mean, obviously you can have the same chords or whatever you want to say musically, but sing something different because the song would have changed by now in the club.
Or at least orchestrate it different, or have the voice mix be different. Something be different and not just repeating over and over.
Or maybe it gets quieter, like, I don't know.
There are a lot of things you could do, but they chose to do none of them.
Yeah.
Which I guess is also a choice. And after that, we get what actually may be most confusing on the album to me. Talk Amongst Yourselves. When I listened to this, I was like, who is this? We have not heard a voice like this ever on this album. And it's this big power ballad that seems like it should be really meaningful, but I don't even know who's singing, let alone why she's singing. So it is Big Sue, but like I said before, she tends to have a deeper voice. So anytime we've heard her before has been not that much, and it's been a lot lower. And now this, she's in more of a mezzo range.
Yeah.
And belting. And it's meant to be this like evocative 11 o'clock type number, and it just doesn't hit because we have no investment in this character.
We've had, at best, character developing songs. And then in the second song of Act 2, we get hit with a character we know nothing about. From the album, at least.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
And it's a beautiful song again. It's a beautiful pop song.
Yeah.
The lyrics...
I'm not mad about any of the talent on this album, ever.
There's no one there.
lyrics are vague, but do kind of hint at her emotional state in the moment, but still only hint at, not make any sort of clear reference to what she's feeling, let alone what's happening.
Right.
So I was just like, what is going on?
Act 2 is a blur to me.
Act 2 is rough. Like I said, even watching the bootleg, I was zoning in and out and struggling to go back. Like, I know that she's sitting in an armchair next to the telephone for the song. I watched this yesterday, and I cannot remember why.
Yeah.
Like, I think she's sad about something with Lee because they like had a falling out, because then they get back together later. So I think she's just sad about a falling out with Lee, and that's all the song is.
Yeah.
As far as I know. But we're not getting anything to tell
These
us
lyrics
otherwise.
can't be much more oversimplified, to be honest.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
This
So I don't
is not
imagine
giving
the
us more
dialogue's
than
much
that.
better.
No. Most of the dialogue is not great either.
I'm here as a reminder, never seeing the performance where I want to be shocked and surprised by something you say, be like, oh my God, this clicks now. And I'm just like, oh.
I will give it the biggest caveat of the bootleg is it's really hard to stay engaged with a video when the audio quality is so bad. And there are bits that you can barely understand anything that they're saying. So I'm sure it's definitely much more captivating on stage. Is it captivating enough? I don't know, but it's definitely not good enough to survive bad audio quality.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a big shift after that in tone again to the Fame game. This is another one that I think actually is doing a lot of narrative work.
We have characters, we see what's going on.
And this is the one time that we have repetition being used correctly. Every time that they are repeating the exact same phrases and melodies, there has been something that happens in between. And so it has a different feel to it, a different connotation based on the questions that they're asking him. This is basically all about scandals coming out and why don't you have an answer for these questions? And then the chorus is like, is fame everything you thought it would be? And so you reflect on that differently every time you've heard new information about why they're repeating it.
Yeah.
So it is the right repetition so that he at least knows how to do it once.
Yeah, agreed. But is it too late for that at this point? Like in the show?
I mean, it's too late to start.
Yeah, I think it's a better way to say it.
It's too late to be like, oh, we're going to start paying attention to using repetition well and using the melody to help the story and getting character development and dialogue. Because we got a little bit of that earlier in, which one was it? The fact that I can't immediately remember, it's not a good sign for it. But, so it has happened in bits and pieces here before. But again, the show should have been more of this.
Agreed.
And it wasn't.
I mean, I do think that it's just this might be an oversimplification of everything I just learned from you. But again, we're actually seeing narrative changes within the songs, the lyrics. It's happening on stage as well, and they went hand in hand between appearance changes, lyric changes, stylistic changes. It's good. I'll take that.
George, you told the LA Times that you like girls, so you're not a homosexual?
Well, I have sex at home.
Are you bisexual?
I rarely buy anything these days.
Come on, George, tell us the truth. Do you sleep with boys or not?
Actually, I think sex is vastly overrated. I'd much rather have a cup of tea.
Also, through all of this, you don't really get it at all, I don't think, on the album. But in the show, he is developing a drug habit. And then now, by this point in the show, he is deep into heroin addiction. And so the next song is I See Through You. So without anything else about what's going on, what do you think this song is? Because I was so confused until I saw the bootleg.
Again, there's a reason my notes are sparse. I'm just lost in I don't even want to call them vignettes because I don't get stories in the moment. I'm just in these scenes listening to someone try to describe something to me. I don't know.
I mean, we're repeating ourselves a lot because the show's repeating the same mistakes over and over, or at least the cast album is. The show also, but we're more focused on the cast album. This is the song where they've reconciled and Marcus and George are in his house and they're trying to have a conversation and George is searching everywhere for his stash. Very Mimi and Rent.
I was going to say very Mimi.
And all the tears I cried.
And then he finds it. And so then that's kind of the last straw that he's ignoring Marcus because he's found his drugs. And so this is his I'm Leaving You song, like I see through all your bullshit. And you get that with the staging because of how they're moving in the body language. That's very well done. And he sounds great here, but you get none of what's actually happening.
No, because you can tell it's the whole I see through you, right? Like this idea of like, you can't fool me. I'm over this idea, but I genuinely didn't know at what point of the storyline we were.
Yeah. And you don't know what is he seeing through
Yeah.
and to what and what is the result of that.
Yes.
Is anything happening or is this just a fight? No idea. In the show, I think he leaves.
Well,
but
it's just Marcus singing, so I don't even know who he's singing to.
yeah, you don't
I
know.
mean, obviously, like, I guess their relationship is there, but again,
you don't.
A lot of the songs, they don't interact with each other.
No.
There's not a lot of interpersonal,
Which
like,
is very pop song.
Yes.
Everybody has their own song that they're singing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no conversation happening. There's no anything like that.
Which is why we got so excited for this few songs. We're like, oh my God, characters were here.
Seriously. So I do think he sounds great in this song. The last two words, though, through you. It's the same vowel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not when he sings it.
I see through.
They are very different vowels. And I get what he's trying to do, but it should not have been that pronounced.
Yeah. Again, just some musical directing choices.
Yeah. Most people, it doesn't bother like it bothers me. But I'm like, you just gave a really good performance.
But you also
and this
sang enough in your vocal
This is not
knowledge
the great way to end the song that was so good.
Yeah.
You sounded so impressive. And
Yeah.
this is how you're going to... This is the last thing in my mind as I'm moving on to the next scene.
To be fair, that wasn't the last thing on my mind. That is just a very personal call out. I just want to say that to like everyone listening too. But
Yeah.
it's also important because that stuff does matter.
Yeah. And then after that, if you think we were confused earlier in this album, oh boy. Next up is the weirdest song, Ich bin Kunst, which I really had hoped was a reference to something that is not.
I know.
But that just means I am art. And it feels like a fever dream or an acid trip.
I had fun listening to it. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
At this point, I am just here for vibes in this show.
'Cause that's
I
all
would
you're
have,
getting,
I would have
so.
gotten a double at intermission, and I would just be vibing with what's going on because I'm like, I don't know. The first time I listened to it, I was like, I need to go listen to the lyrics again, but okay, I think.
Ich bin Kunst. Can't you see? Look at you. There, look at me. I am art. Your parody. Ich bin Kunst.
Okay, so this bothers me. So I know I'm going to be more of a stickler for pronunciation of foreign languages than most because I have done a lot of choral singing in different languages, and that has been something that has been drilled in on how to sing certain words and things. That aside, ich is a very commonly known German word, especially because of JFK, Ich bin ein Berliner. And in this track, he keeps saying ich. Why? Matt Lucas did it correctly.
Yeah.
I'm like, boy, George, honey, sweetie.
Is that a British thing where they say like paella instead of paella, even though they're like closer to Spain, so they should know better?
Maybe, but that's a word that has come in, it's become a loan word. We don't really ever use ich or itch to refer to ourselves unless
Fair
we're
retort.
quoting.
I was trying to give him an out.
You can try. But it does have some fun lyrics that I noticed were improved from the London version. Like,
I dressed up in the wardrobe of my mother, Ethel Merman.
the Ethel Merman was added for Broadway.
Classic.
It is fun. So this is taking place during the famous Lee Bowery public performance where he was in a glass box or just in a room behind a one-sided mirror. And so he could not see anybody on the outside, but they could sit and watch him as he just sat around and did whatever in this little space. And so that is the setting for this song where he's saying, I am art. So it's just got a lot of chaotic energy because that is the Lee Bowery vibe. And I do love tritones, but the whole second half of the song is just tritone, tritone, tritone. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a bit much. But it does give that unease, and it works very well here.
Just squeeze art. Try, devil now. Because you don't, and because I dare.
This is a very great number in the show because they bring out a lot of the classic Lee Bowery looks that are not otherwise in the show. Like, he's not wearing them, but they are all ones where the face is obscured in one form or another. So it doesn't need to be him coming out because he's doing his thing, singing and being in the center. And they're all kind of on the side in the like the face kini looks and the fabric covering, and like there's a flower. There's a whole bunch of iconic looks that if you
So the other cast members are just like in them doing like changes and walking them
yeah,
out.
I think it's just ensemble members probably that are coming out in these and doing choreography and just kind of showcasing these. And they're great costumes. I was very lucky to be in London at the time that the Tate Museum was doing an exhibition on Lee Bowery. So I went to that and learned a lot, which was really interesting. But all those looks, like anybody who is a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race or high drag in general, it cannot be overstated how much of modern drag is inspired by or influenced by Lee Bowery.
Yeah.
And it is just so much fun to learn more about him and his creativity and all the things that he did.
What day is this episode coming out?
August 11th.
Great. Well, you know, if between this coming out, I think it's actually still at the Tate through August 31st. And there's actually
That
some
is
good
true.
stuff up on the Tate's website. So if you hear this close to coming out, like, go check it out there and then find out anything.
Yeah. He is a much more influential artist than most people realize because it's long enough ago, and unfortunately he died quite young, that we don't associate his name with all the things that he put into the culture
Right.
as much as we probably would have if he had lived longer.
Right.
But what he put out there is still around.
Yeah.
And so it is...
It
it's
shifted
a very,
the scene.
It's a very good rabbit hole to go down, Googling Lee Bowery and learning more about his life and his art. So I definitely recommend that for anybody listening. After this, now we go into Petrified, sung by Raul Esparza. This is his big dramatic song. What are your thoughts on this? Because this is one that for me tends to wash over me a bit.
I'm repeating so much in the second act. It was there. I'm not getting anything from these songs anymore. Like even those moments of Pretty Lies, or again, I can't even remember some of the names in the beginning where we're like, oh, like we felt this. I'm certain if I saw him perform this with some visuals added to it, I'd remember it more. But
Yeah, I doubt that anybody involved in this production will ever listen to this. But all of the issues of this show are not with the performers.
no.
All of the performers are killing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's just only so much you can do with material you're given. In the show, this comes right after essentially Raul Esparza's character is gay bashed. So he has blood on his face as he's singing this song. It still doesn't quite make sense, the lyrics in that context, but it definitely is a much more striking visual. But the lyrics, again, are really repetitive and not helping to understand.
Extremely repetitive to the point that I did not know that happened in this show. He just repeated
Well, there's definitely no
ideas.
hint of it, but yeah.
Now that I know it's there, I'm like, oh, I understand why this lyric meant that, as I'm just constantly scrolling through them as we go song to song, and you tell me what's happened in the show, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, it just the repeats over and over. Are you filled with pride or are you petrified?
Mm-hmm.
Once, that's a good line. But the more you repeat it, the less good of a line it is.
Yeah, it loses the impact.
And it decreases the use of the first time because it just becomes background noise, which is unfortunate because he is giving a great performance
Totally.
of a not great song.
But like when you can't connect to the lyrics,
There's
or
some
you,
good
like,
music in there
Mm-hmm.
that I would like to see developed a little bit more because it's still fairly basic, but it is beautiful music.
Yeah.
And then the lyrics just are making it hard to take in
Yes.
the way that it's meant to be.
Completely agree.
When you're alone at night, do you run and hide? Are you strong inside? Are you full of pride or just petrified?
And then we get Out of Fashion, which is another one that I have thoughts, so I'll let you go first.
I'd love for you to go first on this one. I'm going to pull a guest card on that one
Okay.
because I really, really want to have some good things to say about these last three songs, and I don't.
So, Out of Fashion feels so close to being a great song. It's like you were this close to being great and you made a sharp left turn and made it go weird. So it's not falling short of great and being good. It goes into very weird territory. So this is after George has been arrested for, I believe, drug possession at this time. He would have other legal issues later.
Right.
So he's in jail singing this song as he's hit what the show is going to make us believe is rock bottom. There will be more coming after the show is done in his life. But he is there reflecting and feeling like, what do I have if I'm not in the center of attention, if I'm out of fashion? That's the gist of it. That is a great sentiment. That is
Yes.
a great moment to musicalize.
You're out of fashion. Your moment's over. And yes, I loved you. Oh, but you wore me out.
And obviously, lyrics are still very basic and not great. But it's like somebody said to Boy George, hey, you know what's really great in songs and musicals? when you layer in other songs from earlier in the show, and it makes it really dramatic to have the characters interacting. You should do that. And he's like, that's great. I love it. And then doesn't understand why people like it when that's done and doesn't quite understand how to do it well. And so you get all of the main characters pretty much coming in one by one, singing a song that they sang earlier in the show, modified slightly to fit into this melody. And this is a very slow song.
Square peg, round hole.
Yep.
Now you're the prisoner. Love's a peculiar feeling. It's a question mark.
But it's going sort of okay for the first couple of characters. And then it starts to get a little bit less fitting the vibe. And then Lee Bowery comes in with a very slow rendition of I'll Have You All. And it is 100% giving me Moulin Rouge firework vibes.
Jesus, that's so funny.
It is literally, I am singing these asinine words, but I'm singing it slowly and with emotion. And so it has meaning.
Yeah.
Oh, honey, no, that makes it so much worse.
Genuinely.
Old and young, tiny meats well hung, white, black, puff, chat. Did you see the side of that? Shy, green time, hair is scary, straight out to make me cry.
I really, really tried to have a lot of concerted thoughts for this song, but every time it played, more and more started happening, and I just kept saying, what the hell?
What the hell?
I didn't understand what it could have been used
What
at
the gay
on
hell?
stage. Again, excited for you to tell me more. And now I think I turned my head a little bit more when I say what the hell. Maybe a little bit of a higher pitch. What the hell? You know?
What the gay hell?
Yeah.
So on stage, George is in the center in blue lighting to show that he's sad, because we have to make sure that everybody knows that. And then as people are coming in and singing, they're all in different parts of the stage. And so there's a catwalk thing up above. So you've got somebody stage right, somebody stage left, somebody above him, somebody above stage left, above stage right. Basically, all the main characters are around him. And so they're all doing their thing. And the only one that I remember that had any kind of impact at all is Lee Bowery comes out with, I'm not going to say no makeup, but very minimal makeup, plain white clothes. And you're like, oh, he's sick. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they not so artfully earlier in the show mentioned that he has AIDS. It was not the least tactful way of doing it, but still not great. So as the song is happening, I think by the end of it, Lee Bowery is in bed. And what we'll find out is his deathbed.
Yeah.
And so, again, you're not meeting the moment with the energy it needs to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes parody.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's not like
just
Angel
not
walking
good.
out and Rent. Rent is definitely a period piece, but like Angel walking out and doing these things in the moment, it has the credence that it needs.
Yeah. One, you've got the storytelling language of the show prior to that to earn it. Two, it is actually meaningful because this is a character we've gotten to know well and care about. And three, it just fits the moment so well.
Mm-hmm.
And this has none of that.
No. And honestly, I figured something like this was going on, or with the next song.
With how sad it is in the next song, yeah.
Yeah.
You're out of fashion.
And then the next song is Illador.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I was not clear on who was singing this. It is actually Nicola,
It is
who
Nicola.
is his wife at this point,
Mm-hmm.
which that is very quickly glossed over in the show. Like, it is mentioned,
Not in a song.
not a song. In the book, it is very quickly there and gone.
Yeah.
And she brings back Big Sue,
Mm.
who they've not spoken since they're falling out. And he's like, oh no, I must be really dying if the two of you are getting along.
Yeah.
And so that's a funny line. And that kind of shows good character of like Lee Bowery being a silly, absurd kind of person all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Even in the worst circumstances. But again, too little, too late. And so I think Big Sue leaves and then Nicola sings this. No, wait, she sings this after he dies. This seems like something you would sing
Yeah.
as someone's dying, but no, he has just died. And then she is singing this to him.
Choices.
And I don't know why we're saying it in a different language, Illador. That is not at all clear in the show or the album.
Wasn't this one of his like normal actual songs?
I don't think so, was it?
Maybe it was
No,
just from this.
this is the only song in the show that actually has specific lyrics to what's going on.
Mm.
Because she mentions being tied up in the hospital with tubes and stuff. She mentions silence equals death.
Yeah.
She mentions him dying. Like, this is actually the only specific song. So they are specific lyrics, but there are still some bad lyrics in here.
Yeah.
And just bad writing in general. Like the,
How could you go and die? What a selfish thing.
is so cringe, and I can't quite put my finger on exactly why. I think part of it might be that's such an overdone trope.
Also, it eliminates anything like, not that any of these people were to blame that he got AIDS or anything like that, but there's so many other influences that go along with it, and it's not just the one thing or his choice.
Yeah.
That line did piss me off too.
Because to have that kind of a line in any kind of show, movie, TV show, you have to really earn it by building up a relationship between the two characters where that is absolutely how that character would respond to the death.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're always at each other, that kind of relationship that's built on a lot of insult comedy, kind of obviously out of love.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we have very little of their relationship in the show.
Yeah.
And so for it to come out of nowhere like that, it rings as, I think you mean that in a good way, but I can't actually know for sure.
I don't know for sure.
And so it's just, ugh.
Yeah. Not to reference Shucked again, but it's one of my favorite lines. Family is telling someone to go to hell and worrying they get there safely. We have no understanding of, do you treat this person like family? How close are you? The cast album showed none of this relationship, especially if you listen to it on Spotify when Nicola's first song in the first act didn't exist. So that was very confusing to who the hell is this?
Oh boy. So it's a beautiful melody. It is a great sentiment, but so badly executed. It's, again, a fumble that didn't need to happen here.
Yeah.
You were hurt by love, and still you came right back for more.
So then the last song on this production is Come On In From the Outside, different from the London production.
Mm-hmm.
This is another one where if you're just listening to it casually and not paying attention, it's a very nice song. It's very catchy. It's giving very George Michael Freedom vibes to me. And in some spots mixed with Hedwig and the Angry Inch, actually. But again, the lyrics are saying nothing.
Just when you think you're out there on your own, you see yourself in someone else's eyes. And if they told you you could never love yourself, it was a lie.
It feels like it's trying to go for the same kind of vibe as Light at the end of Next to Normal.
Okay.
Of, yeah, this got dark, but we're just going to sing a happy sounding song to make you leave the theater a little bit happier.
Yeah.
And it's earned more in Next to Normal, obviously.
Sure.
But it feels like that's what it's trying to do without fully understanding why.
Mm.
Obviously, it wasn't copying Next to Normal because that was several years later. But
Right.
It's that mentality of we have to end happy. And granted, this is a lot better than a lot of shows that do that. Boy from Oz, it makes less sense, but it is more fun.
Yeah.
And fucking Moulin Rouge, she just died. But here's a kick line. I will never stop until I convince the whole world that that show is as bad as it is, which means I will never stop.
I'll never stop.
Hold up your head, never be afraid to shine. Feel that difference in my body and my mind. All out with loneliness, such a waste of time. Come on in from the outside.
So that is the last song on the actual album. I don't know what your version is, but the main takeaway I have from this that we talked about a little bit before is what a missed opportunity this show was. Club kid culture is perfect fodder for a musical. It is ridiculous. It is over the top. It is queer. It is to some degree nostalgic because it's from the 80s, and for a lot of the target demographic, especially at this time, they would have had memories of that would have brought them back.
Mm-hmm.
It should have been great.
Mm-hmm.
And then here we have this instead.
Bless you, Rosie O'Donnell, for
I love
giving
that-
this a try.
I love that she tried because this
It
is such a good
deserved the
idea.
try.
And there is good stuff here, at least. We obviously keep saying a lot of the bad stuff because it's what we do.
Because
But
if it gets revived, you know what? Maybe they'll redo the book or whatever, or the score, everything.
maybe at this point, in the realm of reality of what people might do, even that's a stretch. I would hope most for a different show trying for the same vibe. Like maybe a fictionalized singer, not Boy George,
Mm-hmm.
but someone similar to that.
Yeah.
Like Dreamgirls. So like Dreamgirls was
Great example.
the Supremes-ish, and all the characters in there are sort of replacements for real people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get that story without having to worry about being accurate, without having to worry about being offensive to the estates of certain individuals. You can tell a better story because you're not beholden to the reality of what happened.
Right.
And I think that would be a much better way to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe keep Lee Bowery as the one main
As the
person
anchor.
because he is the biggest personality for the show visually,
Yeah.
certainly. And so I think that could be a better way to go about it and have somebody amazing do the music to be in the style, but actually more pastiche and not I'm pulling from my old bag of tricks.
Yeah.
And I think that would naturally happen anyway now because we're farther removed from the 80s. And so it's not just going to be I still got the old habits of writing this way. I'm going to do it the same way I did 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see that.
I tried to read about Boy George and Lee Bowery, and I was learning about them and seeing more of the looks that they did and how provocative Boy George was and some of the stuff where I'm like, this is drama.
Growing up, I always thought of Boy George that he was a joke. And realizing now it's because he was unapologetically queer and pushing limits and boundaries.
Where we came from, and that's the sentimentality around it.
Yeah, and so people pushed back on that and labeled him a freak, which I love that we start. I do love that we start off with embracing freaks.
Yes.
And so it really feels like a long smear campaign that he then unfortunately kind of leaned into and became a weird celebrity later, all the way up until he made the bad decision to go into Moulin Rouge. You thought I was going to say the other stuff, didn't you?
You almost got me on that one. And then I literally was like, oh, okay, we're going to talk about him? Oh, no, we're going to talk about Moulin Rouge. Okay. Not surprised.
We also kind of mentioned before, why are we telling two people's stories that don't interact?
Yeah. The cast album really did highlight both problem, I think, musically and book. The score, the lyrics,
and again,
the book.
Being too beholden to reality and what happened. In a musical, those two should be friends, or at least interacting way more frequently. If you're going to be telling both of their stories, they can't be siloed.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to do that. You're never going to be able to tell a good story in that format.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever see MJ?
No.
Well, I won lottery tickets here in Chicago when I was here, so when I hear you talk, and you know how much I like hearing you talk about theater, and it helps me decide whether, like, no, I hear you, I just didn't vibe the same way or whatever it might be. But when I saw MJ, they tried to make it a concert at the very end, and it was very like the estate controlled it, like you said.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so washed over with so many things. And every time you would tell me what was happening on stage, I was just like, oh my God, this is MJ all over again. We can't say AIDS. Well, we're going to say it, but then we're not really going to give any credence to it. We're just going to like, oh, here we are. So I really like your vision of what the show could be because, again, I'm just sitting here wanting as we're winding down, thinking like, we could have so much fun. We could have so much fun.
This could be the highlight of casual faggotry for the end of time.
Honey, truly.
So one thing I was thinking about listening to this over and over again, do you think this would have been more successful as a jukebox musical, a full jukebox musical? Because it feels like a jukebox musical anyway. Very few of the songs have anything to do with the story.
I think it would have ran more than 100 shows.
Yeah, it would have probably been as artistically successful.
But I don't think it would have been a better show.
No, but it probably would have done better.
It probably would have done better. I'm hesitant to say anymore because I don't know enough of Boy George's discography to really understand what could go where, and that's not how my brain works. So I think it would have done better financially, but I don't think it would have improved the show.
Yeah. I don't know that we'll ever get a show like this again.
Yeah.
Because now anything like this is going to be a jukebox musical and has been. So on the one hand, I do want to give them props for attempting original music. And some of it is good music, just not right for this venue. It shows that you can be good at songwriting and be out of your depth in musical theater.
Yeah.
Because it's a very different kind of songwriting. But I do appreciate the effort. And I appreciate, obviously, all the talented people giving their voices and their instrument playing skills and all that. There's so much here that is good.
Yeah.
It just does not come together into a good final product.
Very that.
Would you like to get into some scoring of this album?
Oh, my goodness. I totally forgot we still have scoring left. I'm so sorry for the length of this episode.
I knew what I was getting into when I asked you to be on my podcast.
I want you all to know that 4 days ago, I texted Alex, I'm worried I'm not going to have enough to talk about.
And I laughed at him. Okay, we're going to start with the music.
Yeah.
So out of 15 points for music alone, what would you give this as far as comparing it to the realms of musical theater as a whole, and why?
Great question. I was talking to Alex before this, and I said, I get really difficult in these. We live in a world where if it's not a 5-star review, it's a bad review, and something went wrong, right? Like that happens to Airbnb hosts, your Uber Eats driver, whatever it might be. And so I'm like, well, how low is too low? On some of these categories. There are other categories that I scored very, very nicely on. These first two, you just hit me with some whammies. And I also know statistics decently well, so I'm like, all right, where on the bell curve would this lie? Do I know enough to really put it at the complete bottom or somewhere there? I gave this a 5 out of 15 on music.
That is more generous than I thought you would be.
I really wanted to go for 3, but again, I was like, that's pretty far on the bell curve down. I guess, honestly, I probably should put it closer to 3 if you think about it. If the 30th percentile would be 5.
I think the music, separating out the lyrics, I think 5 seems appropriate for the music.
Yeah.
On that note, for lyrics, out of 15, what are you going to give it?
4. I should probably give it less, but I felt bad giving it less because I just kept thinking about people tried. I know they did and it wasn't a success, but Sometimes I do have a soul.
That's not why I asked you on this podcast. It wasn't to hear you be a nice person.
Yeah, it really should be like closer to a 3.
What do you want to go with?
Well, I'm going 3.
It's pretty cringy, yeah.
Yeah, and it just doesn't take me anywhere.
No.
It doesn't take me anywhere.
Well, it takes me away from the album into a different album.
Or honestly, I just stared out my window.
All right, so we're getting into performance now.
Mm-hmm.
Technical performance out of 15 points. Where would you put this?
Because there were many times that I was like, I don't know what was just said, but I liked the sound of how it was said. And I get really nervous, especially me, who is all of my musical comes from instrument playing. I went 12 because I did think the performances were good, and I get nervous in my own ability to properly judge this, so I went high.
I would maybe even go a little bit higher.
Okay.
I think, especially the singers, looking at the principals at least.
Oh,
Ewan Morton,
I know why I went down to 12 on one of your
Ewan Morton
questions.
is fantastic. Sarah Uriarty-Berry and Liz McCartney as Nicola and Big Sue are both fantastic. I think we're going to get knocking down a little bit for Boy George O'Dowd.
And orchestrations. That's what I knocked it down some. I didn't like some of the arranging.
And for me, Raul Esparza, I guess it's questionable whether it gets into voice acting or performance because the rocker quality he goes to,
almost the vocal
I
fry.
think is a pro for acting and a con for quality of performance. And yeah, some of the orchestrations are good. Some are
I think there were times
mediocre.
where the singers deserved more.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why I went down. It wasn't the singers usually. It was what are we
Yeah.
doing around the main singer.
Yeah, and there are only 9 musicians for this score, which does present a challenge to an orchestrator to have a full sound and include a lot of the 80s type instruments because you can't double up on things that you can in a
It's
more
not seeing
traditional
the revival of Camelot recently.
Yeah, you can't do that kind of orchestration trick
Yeah.
that a lot of musicals can. So you're kind of limited by your musicians and the style of the show that you're doing. So again, not every cast album can be great objectively because it's more important that the show does what it needs to do and the cast album that follows may not be able to capture what the show can do well. So, all right, 12?
Yeah.
Okay. And then for the voice acting along the way.
This one was really hard for me to judge. Genuinely, I feel like I threw this one at the dartboard and just said, I could justify that because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I do understand. I'd probably go a little lower than the number I'm about to say because of some of the content you said where it was just calling out particular, like the repeated lines, like make them different. You didn't do that. But
there was none of that.
To be fair, that's the music director's responsibility. They chose to have the actor do that.
This is not a judgment on the actors. This is a judgment on the album giving you voice acting. So that includes the music director giving them the choices because a lot of this, you can't really separate out the individual components.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
fair.
we can actually evaluate is the end product. So
Thank you for the clarification. I'll give you 5 for trying.
yeah, I think that's fine.
I had 7, but again, I threw a dart and I didn't understand the
No,
question correctly.
I was actually thinking lower. So 5
Yeah,
is
I know.
good.
That's why I was like, I'm
Yeah.
going to go down. You want lower than I do, but I'm still.
Yeah, because very little of this, like Ewan Morton, beautiful singing, but there's no acting in any of it.
Yeah, but sometimes I just like get to the point of like, what were you going to act in a show written like this?
Yeah. Again, maybe it couldn't
5 for
ever be good.
Fair point.
All right. So now into storytelling. This is out of 15 points. Do you get a feeling of this being a story? Is it a theater album or is it a collection of songs that don't really relate to each other?
I didn't want to be mean, so they got a 2.
This is definitely any individual song can be lovely. They don't string together at all. A couple songs have dialogue and advance the story, but they are far apart from each other, and so they're not creating any kind of overall narrative.
And when
The
it
fact
did
that
even
it feels
develop
like a jukebox musical when it's not entirely.
right, and it's narrative. I want to go like even when it developed character, I don't know what kind of character they're developing sometimes in the narrative. So it's like even the good parts that we have, narratively speaking, it's not there.
Yeah. And then for accuracy or not being misleading, out of 5 points, we don't get a lot of story in here. Are there bits that lead you to a conclusion that is different than what I shared from having watched it? Or are there things that seem way confusing that shouldn't have needed to be that confusing?
I just said you're going to get a 3 because I felt like I was spun around in a room while listening to this. And because I still stayed in that room, it wasn't that misleading.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know if it was a journey. Like, I didn't really see the
Yeah.
start and the end. Obviously, there was canonically and temporally, but I didn't get that from the cast album fully. So you could argue, Brandon, based off your words, it should be lower. But at the same time, I was like, I vibed with a lot of the songs.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were going for.
This has been a hard one over the course of the podcast to try to nail down what I had in mind when I was coming up with this scale.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think there is an element of the narrator's making it so much more confusing by who is this, especially in certain songs when they come in and don't sound like themselves, or like Big Sue in her big song sounding entirely different than she did the entire rest of the album. And just making me
Spotify
go,
songs were out of order. You're going to punch me by the end of this. I could go down to a 2 just on the idea of sometimes I had no idea who was talking about it. But
If
I'm
you
not
can't
going
even
to
separate
fuss
out-
over 1 point. They get the 3 I gave them.
Okay. Then we have the recording quality components, which this is a start at the top and deduct if you need to.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's really much to deduct here.
Yeah.
Because they are mostly pop songs. They are mixed like pop songs, and they sound great for what they
They
are.
sound great.
And I don't think as we were going through, there weren't really any issues with echoing or fuzziness or any of those kind of issues that can sometimes happen.
No, I honestly gave it a 9 just to say it, because in the sense there was some times where I was just like, in the few times where people were singing over each other, it could just be me and my ability to listen to lyrics sometimes.
So I'd put that into the mix, which is the next
really?
part. Because the mix is about more the balance and the sound design.
Okay, party.
of-
Then you can give them 10 on quality.
Okay. And then for mix out of 10 points. So this is where, is it ever hard to hear the singers because of the orchestra or the band, or with multi-layered singing, any kind of polyphonic sound, is it get confusing more than it needs to be?
I did appreciate, and again, it's probably because of the pop mixing version of it, that the band was never too loud. And besides like Raul's like intentional rock tone, I thought tone of the singers were done very, very well, and no one had to strain or like they
Yeah,
had
they
to be
sounded
like
good
mic'd
together.
up too much. And the music, although sometimes I thought was flat, but it's that whole 9-musician orchestration things, not tuning flat, but just,
Emotionally flat.
yeah, I could give that a 9, honestly.
I think for your, like you said, the few little issues of not quite hearing the clarity that you'd like,
Yeah.
that seems like a 9.
And that could also just be me.
I think 9 is very fair for that.
Yeah.
And then last is artwork. So the album artwork for this, out of 5 points, is it selling the show? Is it giving you an accurate representation of what's inside? Where would you put it?
I think your description of what a 3 stands for is perfect for this show. It's not selling the show, but it's not hurting it, because we constantly said, what's going on? And that is how I feel about the cover of this album. What's going on?
Yeah.
It's like a Boy George wannabe, but we don't know what's happening. It's just
But
like
what does that mean?
Yeah, much like every other song. What does that mean? So I
Yeah.
just thought it deserves a 3.
Okay. I'm okay with that. My issue is more of a personal issue that I just, in general, don't like yellow. There are certain circumstances where I like it, but in general, the colors on the album aren't for me.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
a me thing.
you're not going to get an override on
that's
this one.
that's
for
a
me.
me thing more than a design thing. So that brings us to a grand total of 52 points out of 100.
Honestly, work. I thought I was going to be worse.
Yeah.
Your scoring system's really nice. Makes you think.
I've been trying to balance, like when I was creating it, I was like, a lot of these things should be separated out, but I can't make a system that has 50 sub points.
Yeah.
Because people are going to hate me and no
Mhm.
one's going to do it. I'm like, how do I balance being relatively simple, but capturing what I'm trying to get at?
And it does capture everything that went into the album, because it's not just the performers. There's
Yeah.
the audio engineering, there's the cover art and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So
This has been exactly what I thought it would be. For better and for worse. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on this. And
thank you.
I still laugh that you think we wouldn't have enough to talk about.
I know.
So what would be the best way for people to find you online if you would like them to find you at all?
If you want to find me on Instagram, you can. I have no posts, and my picture is from, I think, 2016. My Instagram is B as in Brandon, M as my middle name, and my last name, Boucher, Boucher 07. And yeah, it's my Instagram handle. Someone made it for me, but happy to interact. And every once in a while, you'll see me post random stories about my life.
God help us all.
Yeah, there's a reason. No.
Well, thank you so much for being with me here
Yeah,
and for enduring this cast album together.
my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to The Little Things We Hear Together. You can follow me on Instagram at Little Things We Hear Together, and you can also email me at littlethings.weheartogether@gmail.com. The podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, so please like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the fun. Join me next week when we'll be talking about the last cast album of the season, the 2003 original Broadway cast album for Wicked. Until then, go out and be a freak.
Outside.